The day after our wedding, my husband's parents handed me a stack of bills and said, "Since you married our son, you're responsible for these now." My husband nodded. "It's just how our family works." I smiled and said, "Oh, I completely understand." Their smug faces dropped when they saw the paperwork I had just filed. I should have seen it coming. Looking back, there were signs everywhere. Little things I ignored because I thought I was just overthinking, or worse, being rude. I loved Daniel. He was sweet, thoughtful, and made me feel safe. But his family? That was a different story. They were too involved in his life. His mom, Patricia, had this way of talking to him like he was still a little boy who couldn't make decisions for himself. His dad, Robert, treated him like unpaid labor, constantly calling him over to help with house projects and errands. I told myself it didn't matter. I wasn't marrying his family. I was marrying him. But the morning after our wedding, they proved just how wrong I was. We had a beautiful ceremony. Small, elegant, exactly what I wanted. After months of planning, stressing, and dealing with everyone's opinions, it was finally over. I woke up feeling happy, thinking about our future. Daniel's parents invited us over for brunch. Nothing fancy, just a casual meal at their house. I didn't think anything of it. The moment we walked in, Patricia was already waiting in the living room with a stack of envelopes. She smiled, handed them to me, and said, "Here you go, dear." I frowned, confused. "What's this?" Daniel was standing beside me, completely calm, like this was normal. His dad, Robert, spoke up. "The family bills. Now that you're married to Daniel, you're part of the family, and we all share expenses." I blinked. My brain needed a second to process what I just heard. Patricia kept smiling, like she hadn't just said something absolutely insane. "We've always split things in the family. Since you're his wife now, these are your responsibility too." I looked down at the envelopes in my hands. There were a lot. Some had final notice warnings in red ink. Utility bills, credit card statements, a car payment that definitely wasn't ours. Daniel finally spoke. "It's just how our family does things," he said casually, like he was explaining how we take our coffee. I stared at him, then at his parents. I took a deep breath, placed the envelopes on the coffee table, and smiled. "Oh, I completely understand." And that's when their smug faces started to crack. I should have questioned things earlier. Daniel and I had been together for 3 years before getting married. And in those 3 years, I noticed his parents had an unusual grip on him. They called him constantly, not to check in, but to give him tasks. "Daniel, come fix the sink." "Daniel, take your father's car for an oil change." "Daniel, we need you to pick up groceries for the week." Every time, he'd just say, "Okay," and go. No questions asked. Once, I asked him why his parents relied on him so much. He shrugged. "That's just how it is." And that was always his answer. "That's just how it is." I let it slide because I figured it didn't involve me. But then little things started happening. When we moved in together, Patricia gave me a list of things Daniel liked, his favorite meals, how he liked his clothes folded, how he needed his lunch packed for work a certain way. Like I was applying for the position of his mother. I laughed it off, thinking it was just her way of being helpful. Then there was the time we went out for dinner, and Patricia casually mentioned how they all split the bill for the house. I didn't get it at the time. "Our house?" I asked. "No, dear," she said with a chuckle. "Ours. We all pitch in." I thought she meant Daniel occasionally helped them with expenses. I didn't realize she meant they expected me to start paying too. Looking back, so many things made sense now. Like how Daniel never seemed to have much money, even though he made a decent salary. Or how he never wanted to talk about finances when we were planning the wedding. Or the way his mom made an offhand comment one night about how nice it would be to finally have another woman in the family to help carry the load. I assumed she meant emotionally. She meant financially. They expected me to absorb Daniel's share of their household expenses the moment I became his wife. That's why they waited until after the wedding. They knew if they sprung this on me earlier, I would have run for the hills. But now? In their minds, I was trapped. They thought I would just nod, say, "Of course," and start paying their bills. They thought I wouldn't question it. They thought I wouldn't have a way out. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The moment I said, "Oh, I completely understand," something shifted in the room. Patricia's smile twitched, just a little. Robert's confident posture stiffened. They were expecting shock. Maybe even tears. What they got instead was calm. Daniel, however, looked relieved. Like he thought I had just agreed to their insane plan. I picked up the stack of envelopes again, flipping through them as if I was actually considering paying. A past-due mortgage notice. A maxed-out credit card. A hospital bill from last year. A car payment, for a car I had never even seen before. I took my time looking at each one, nodding like I was mentally calculating how I'd divide the payments. Then I asked, "So, Just to be clear, this is how it works? Everyone pitches in equally? Patricia perked up. Yes, dear. We believe in family responsibility. Daniel nodded. It's fair, he said, like this was the most normal thing in the world. I placed the bills back on the table and clasped my hands together. Well then, I'll need some details. How much is your share? Patricia blinked. I beg your pardon? I smiled. Your share. Since we're all equally responsible, how much are you paying? The room went silent. Robert shifted in his chair. Well, we're the parents, so obviously, oh, of course, you're the parents, I interrupted, still smiling. But in an equal split, everyone pays their fair share, right? Patricia's fingers tightened around her teacup. Well, we've already paid so much over the years. I nodded. Right. And now you're splitting it evenly. So how much do you pay every month? She opened her mouth, then shut it. I turned to Daniel. And how much have you been paying? He hesitated. Well, I send them what I can. Oh! I raised an eyebrow. And how much is that? More silence. I leaned back. So just to summarize, there's no actual split. You just pay whatever you feel like, and I'm supposed to cover the rest. Patricia's face went red. That is not what we're saying. Robert scoffed. You're making this complicated. Just help the family. I nodded. Oh, I want to help. I just need to understand exactly how this works. Patricia and Robert shared a look. They weren't expecting me to question it. They weren't expecting pushback at all. They expected blind obedience. Daniel, bless his oblivious soul, still thought I just needed some convincing. We talked about this before. Babe, he said, trying to sound patient. We take care of each other. That's what family does. Oh, of course, I said. Which is why I already took care of something. Patricia's head snapped up. What do you mean? I reached into my purse, pulled out a neatly stapled document, and placed it on top of the bills. A copy of a newly filed marriage license, listing our finances as separate. Patricia's face drained of color. Robert sat up straight. What the hell is this? Daniel stared at the papers like they had just materialized out of thin air. Wait. What is this? Oh, I said lightly, just a little legal protection. See, I had some concerns about merging finances, so I went ahead and made sure that, legally, none of your debt becomes mine. Silence. You could hear the sound of Patricia's nails scraping against her teacup. But that's not fair, she finally said. You're his wife. What's his is yours. I tilted my head. Oh! So you're saying that if I had $50,000 in credit card debt, you'd be thrilled to help me pay it off? Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. That's different, Robert growled. Why? I asked. Debt is debt. Fair is fair. Daniel still looked stunned. I don't understand. Why would you do this? I took a deep breath. Because I saw this coming. Patricia's lips pursed so tightly, they almost disappeared. Robert looked like he wanted to throw something. Daniel looked hurt, but I didn't care. Because I wasn't falling into their trap. Not now. Not ever. The room was dead silent. Patricia looked like she had swallowed a lemon. Robert's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Daniel was staring at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. I could see the wheels turning in their heads. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to question them. I wasn't supposed to come prepared. And I sure as hell wasn't supposed to have locked down my finances before they had the chance to sink their claws in. I could feel the panic rolling off Patricia in waves. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. But this isn't what we agreed on, she finally managed to say. I blinked. We? Patricia, I never agreed to anything. She turned to Daniel, eyes wild. You said she was on board. You told us she understood how things work. Daniel finally found his voice. I thought she did. I thought we were building a life together. How can we do that if you won't even merge finances? I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, looking him dead in the eye. Tell me something, Daniel. When did you plan on telling me? His face paled. What? I gestured at the bills. This. The whole family shares debt thing. When did you plan on telling me it meant I was responsible for your parents' mortgage? Their credit cards? Their medical bills? Daniel's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Patricia jumped in, her voice sickly sweet. Now, dear, you're looking at this the wrong way. We're a unit. We help each other. I smiled. Oh, absolutely. And speaking of help, I reached into my bag again and pulled out another document. Patricia looked nervous. Robert looked like he was going to have an aneurysm. I set the paper down carefully in front of them. This, I said, is an eviction notice. The color drained from Daniel's face. What? Robert snatched the paper and skimmed through it, his hands shaking. This is a joke, he snapped. Patricia grabbed it next, her hands trembling so badly that the paper crinkled. This isn't real, she whispered. Oh, but it is, I said, casually crossing my legs. See, I did a little digging. Turns out the house isn't in your names. It's in Daniel's. The room froze. Daniel turned to me, stunned. Wait, how do you know that? I smiled. Because I pulled the records. Patricia gasped like I had just confessed to murder. How dare you go through our personal business? I ignored her. Since the house is in Daniel's name, that means he holds full legal responsibility for it. And since he technically owns it, guess what that means? I tapped the paper. He can evict you. Robert exploded. You can't kick us out of our own damn house. I tilted my head. Oh, but you just said we share everything. Isn't this part of that? Patricia's hands fisted in her lap. You wouldn't. I turned to Daniel. Would you? He looked panicked. I let that hang in the air. Let them sit in it. Because now, for the first time, they weren't holding the cards. I was. Patricia was shaking her head over and over, whispering, no, no, no. Robert looked like he wanted to throw the nearest piece of furniture. Daniel? He looked lost. I could tell his brain was short-circuiting. Because here's the thing, Daniel wasn't evil. He was just weak. He had spent his whole life doing whatever his parents told him. And now, for the first time, he had to make a choice. Finally, he turned to me, desperate. Why would you do this? He whispered. They're my parents. I sighed. Daniel, you let them set me up. You knew what this was. And you never even warned me. He swallowed hard. I didn't think you'd react like this. I laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. You thought I'd just accept it? He ran a hand down his face. I don't know. I thought you'd understand. Oh, I do understand, I said, standing up. I understand that your parents have been using you for years. And they thought they could do the same to me. Patricia suddenly screeched, her voice going shrill. This isn't how this works. Robert slammed his fist on the table. This is a damn betrayal. I turned to him and smiled. Oh, I know. I grabbed my bag, took one last look at their horrified faces, and headed for the door. Where are you going? Daniel called after me. I turned back. To fix this mess. Because they thought they had trapped me. But they had no idea I was already ahead of them. I walked out of that house knowing the fight wasn't over. Patricia and Robert weren't going to let this go. They weren't just entitled, they were desperate. And desperate people do stupid things. Daniel had stayed behind with his parents, probably trying to calm them down. I didn't care. I had bigger problems to deal with. Because if I had learned anything from this family, it was that they played dirty. And they were about to prove it. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was blowing up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. Not just from Daniel. From his entire extended family. His aunt left a message calling me heartless. His cousin texted me. How could you do this to your own husband? Even his grandmother, who I had only met once, sent a long, rambling voicemail about how a wife should support her man, no matter what. I scrolled through the messages, feeling my blood boil. I had barely gotten out of that mess, and now they were trying to drag me back in. Then I got to Daniel's messages. At first, they were calm. Daniel, we need to talk. Please, let's fix this. Then they turned guilt-ridden. Daniel, you're making my parents sick with stress. Just come back and we'll figure this out. Then angry. Daniel, wow. So you really don't care about this marriage at all, huh? And then finally, pathetic. Daniel, do you even love me? I took a deep breath, grabbed my keys, and drove straight to his parents' house. I walked through the front door without knocking. Patricia, Robert, and Daniel were in the kitchen, whispering furiously. The second they saw me, they shut up. Patricia was the first to speak. Oh, look who decided to show up, she sneered. I ignored her and looked straight at Daniel. Did you send your family after me? He had the decency to look guilty. I just thought they could help you understand. I let out a short, humorless laugh. So you told them what, exactly? That I refused to take on your parents' debt? That I didn't want to pay their mortgage? Silence. Patricia crossed her arms. We told them you were trying to kick us out of our own home. I stared at her. You mean the home that's legally in Daniel's name? The one you expected me to pay for? Robert slammed his fist on the table. You are so damn selfish. You waltz in here, marry our son, and suddenly think you can change how things work. I turned to Daniel. Say it. He blinked. What? Say it, I repeated. Say out loud what you expected me to do. He swallowed hard. I just thought you'd want to help. I took a step closer. No. Say what you really mean. You thought I'd be stupid enough to fall in line. You thought I'd pay their bills so you wouldn't have to anymore. He opened his mouth, then closed it. And in that moment, I saw it. The truth. He knew. He always knew this was wrong. But instead of standing up to his parents, he was willing to let me be their next victim. Patricia, sensing the shift, panicked. Daniel, honey, don't let her ruin everything. But he wasn't listening anymore. His face had gone pale. He was finally realizing what I had known all along. He had destroyed his own marriage before it even had a chance to begin. I reached into my bag one last time and pulled out a small, folded paper. I handed it to Daniel. He opened it. His hands shook as he read. Then his eyes snapped to mine, full of fear. This is a divorce petition. I nodded. Filed this morning. Patricia screamed. You bitch. Robert lunged forward like he wanted to hit me, but Daniel stopped him. I turned to Daniel one last time. You had a choice. You could have chosen us. Instead, you chose them. I turned on my heel and walked out the door. I didn't look back. The divorce was messy. Daniel tried to fight it at first. He begged. He cried. He swore he'd change. But it was too late. His parents' web had already choked the life out of our marriage. In the end, he caved. I walked away clean. No shared debt. No financial traps. Nothing tying me to that family of leeches ever again. And Daniel? A few months later, I heard through the grapevine that his parents still hadn't changed. They drained him dry. Forced him to refinance the house twice. Maxed out another credit card in his name. And last I heard, they lost the house anyway. Turns out, they couldn't keep up with the payments without me. I can only imagine the look on Patricia's face when she realized the golden goose she had been counting on was long gone. And honestly, that thought alone was enough closure for me.